Welcome to NTD Evening News. Our top story tonight, giant balloons take over New York City for the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Millions of people pack the streets to watch the parade despite the rain. They tell us about what brought them out for the event and their Thanksgiving plans. The Mexican president responds to President-elect Trump on X just after he said she agreed to stop migration into the U.S. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg dines with President-elect Trump at Mar-A-Lago. What Trump's team says about the meeting. 3 U.S. citizens wrongfully detained in China are released, arriving home just hours before Thanksgiving. Their freedom years in the making. And conservative personality Candace Owens denied entry to New Zealand after being banned by Australia. Officials citing controversial statements.
This is NTD Evening News. Live from our global headquarters in New York City, here's Tiffany Meyer.
Happy Thanksgiving and thank you for joining us tonight. The Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade returned to the streets of New York City this morning. Despite rain and chilly temperatures, millions came out to watch the annual celebration. NTD was there.
Today marks the 98th edition of the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, featuring dozens of floats, balloons, marching bands, and performance groups. This marching band from East Tennessee State University made it to the parade despite challenges from Hurricane Helene.
We are going to be selecting a selection that includes the opener of our halftime show from this year, which is an arrangement of the famous tune "Happy Together." You know, just trying to bring some joy on a pretty visually dreary day, but you know, spirits still seem really high.
And this group with the Indigenous Enterprise performed Native American cultural dances.
When we're dressing up, we are actually dancing and representing different dance styles that originated in different parts of the United States and through our different cultures. And so I'm representing a woman's jingle dress style, and he's dancing men's fancy style, and she's doing a woman's fancy shawl.
Some audience members camped out early for the parade despite the rain.
How long have you guys been waiting here for today?
Since 6:30 in the morning.
6:30.
And it was worth it.
It was worth it, even in the rain?
Even in the rain.
We were so happy to wake up at 6 a.m.
It was worth it, even with the rain?
Oh, absolutely.
How early did you get here this morning?
We got here, I think it was like 4:30, 4:45 this morning. We got here very, very early.
Others told us about their plans for the rest of Thanksgiving.
Getting some dinner, but we're going to see. Hopefully we're not in there all night.
I'm going to my aunt's house, and I'm so excited for stuffing.
Yeah!
I'm also going to my aunt's house. Very excited for the food.
The parade drew an estimated 3.5 million spectators in person, plus 30 million TV viewers.
One of Chicago's most beloved holiday traditions has reached its 90th anniversary. Spectators packed the streets there today to catch a glimpse of Chicago's own Thanksgiving parade. NTD's Sherry Ning brings us more from the Windy City.
Weather is chilly here in the Windy City, but the streets are buzzing with excitement as Chicagoans gather together to celebrate Thanksgiving with festive floats, marching bands, and live performances.
This year marks a monumental 19th anniversary for the event, which has been spreading festive cheer since 1934. For many Chicagoans, coming to see the Thanksgiving parade has become a beloved family tradition.
Been born and raised in Chicago, so we've been watching the turkey parade for a long, long time. Teddy the turkey is iconic, you know, the belle of the ball for the Thanksgiving Day parade in Chicago. So we're honored to be able to escort it down State Street with 30 of our team members. We're so excited to be a part of it. It's really an honor, and we just couldn't be more excited to have this opportunity. We're really, really grateful, and I was looking forward to eat some turkey after this.
While for others, the tradition is just beginning.
This is our first time coming with all 4. I want it to be a tradition. I want it to be. This is a lot of fun, so it's better than being home and making a turkey.
Ranked second best Thanksgiving parade in the nation, the Chicago Thanksgiving Parade also provides an opportunity for people to come together to tell the stories. especially about the many rich cultures and groups that make up the vibrant Chicago community.
The shirt is hand woven and the skirt is stitched, especially from like a specialty from where my father is from Salcaja in Guatemala. It means a lot because, you know, I've lived in Chicago my whole life, but I do have a lot of family and I do have a lot of friends back in Guate. So to be able to like kind of represent them and carry them here in like the United States is something that's special for me. It's cool to be able to experience things that, you know, maybe I haven't seen before. And I really love being able to like see things from other cultures, and I think it's really cool. I definitely feel like Chicago is very like underrated. Like you can meet anyone from anywhere over here.
Reporting from Chicago, Sharon in NTD News.
President-elect Trump provided an update yesterday on illegal immigration, saying Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum had agreed to stop migration through Mexico and into the United States. She since responded with a clarification. Trump wrote on Truth Social that the agreement will effectively close the southern border. In a post on X, Sheinbaum wrote that she had an excellent conversation with Trump. She says they discussed strengthening collaboration on security issues and the campaign Mexico is carrying out to prevent fentanyl consumption. Sheinbaum wrote in a separate post on X that Mexico has been respecting human rights in its approach to migration. She clarified that it's not Mexico's position to close borders, but to build bridges between governments and between peoples. Trump vowed this week to impose a 25% tariff on all goods from Mexico and Canada. He said the aim was to force the two nations to tighten border security and help stem the flow of fentanyl into the United States. President-elect Donald Trump also announced plans to launch a large-scale ad campaign yesterday that aims to show Americans the effects of fentanyl. He wrote on Truth Social that he will be working with the United States advertising campaign to show the horror of this drug. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg visited President-elect Trump at Mar-A-Lago and dined with him. Does the meeting signal better cooperation to come between Zuckerberg and the new administration? A spokesperson for Meta said Zuckerberg was invited for dinner to talk about the incoming administration. Stephen Miller, Trump's incoming deputy chief of staff for policy, confirmed the meeting in an appearance on Fox News. Miller said Zuckerberg, quote, has made clear that he wants to support the national renewal of America under President Trump's leadership, and that Zuckerberg, quote, understands that President Trump is an agent of change, an agent of prosperity. Trump has had a rocky relationship with Zuckerberg. The president-elect was banned from Facebook after the January 6th Capitol breach, but that decision appears to have softened. In July, Facebook reinstated Trump's account, and Zuckerberg praised Trump's response to the assassination attempt. The details of what the two men discussed at Mar-a-Lago remain unknown. Today, gratitude might come easily to families of 3 detained Americans. 3 U.S. citizens wrongfully detained by China arrived in Joint Base San Antonio, Texas, just hours before Thanksgiving. They are free after a prisoner swap with Beijing secured their release yesterday. Their freedom was years in the making.
3 Americans detained in China for years will spend Thanksgiving on U.S. soil after a prisoner exchange. They're Mark Swedan, Kai Li, and John Leung. The swap follows extensive diplomacy. The State Department says Li and Swedan were wrongfully detained. Li is free after about 8 years in prison.
Never would we have imagined in our wildest dreams that he'd be whisked away by agents of China's Ministry of State Security on these charges of espionage.
His son is thanking government officials and NGOs for bringing his father home for the holidays. Swedan's mother, Catherine, lives in Texas. Republican Senator Ted Cruz represents that state and is praising the work to help his constituent son. Leung is known to have spent time with Chinese officials and was serving a life sentence for spying charges.
Australia passes the world's first law to ban social media for children under 16. After a parliamentary session that went into the night, the country's Senate, or upper house of parliament, voted to pass the law.
We know there is widespread concern and evidence about the severe mental health impact of social media on children. We've seen very disturbing global trends in youth mental health since the rise of social media, especially for girls.
The law is expected to take effect next November. It sets some of the toughest social media controls in the world and will force platforms to take reasonable steps to ensure age verification protections are in place. Conservative personality Candace Owens denied entry to New Zealand. This is after getting banned from Australia. Here's the story.
Conservative personality Candace Owens has been denied entry into New Zealand and will be unable to attend a speaking tour. This comes weeks after Australia also denied her visa. Australia's immigration minister, Tony Burke, said that, quote, Australia's national interest is best served when Candace Owens is somewhere else. Burke also said Owens has the capacity to incite discord, pointing to a time when she downplayed alleged atrocities during the Holocaust.
Some of the stories, by the way, sound completely absurd. I mean, like the idea that they just like cut a human up and then sewed them back together. Why would you do that? Literally, even if you're the most evil person in the world, that's a tremendous waste of time and supplies.
Owens said many of these stories sound like, quote, bizarre propaganda. The Australian immigration minister also pointed to when Owens claimed that Muslims invented slavery. Owens called the explanation from Australia a pretext and said she believes she's banned because she's not comfortable with the atrocities in Gaza. She said certain organizations don't want her talking about it.
They essentially say if you do not kowtow or at least stay mum, so you either got to be out there and pretending that you don't see all of the Palestinian children that are being blown up.
Burke has not responded to these allegations. New Zealand says it has a policy of refusing entry if someone has been banned from another country. NTD reached out to Owens but did not hear back before airtime.
President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden greeted firefighters at the Nantucket Fire Department. The president explained what he's thankful for this Thanksgiving.
I'm thankful for a peaceful transition in the presidency, and I'm thankful for the fact that I think with the grace of God and good little neighbors, with a little luck, we're going to get some more progress in the Middle East. And I'm really thankful for being able to get the first peace done on Lebanon. There's a lot to be thankful.
Meanwhile, Vice President Kamala Harris and Second Gentleman Doug Emhoff visited the Central Kitchen in Washington, D.C. The website for D.C. Central Kitchen says its mission is to use food as a tool to empower people and build communities. But troops were also treated to a taste of local cuisine, blending tradition with a nod to their host country's flavors.
Today we're having our Thanksgiving meal, and so we have prepared U.S. traditional food, Thanksgiving meal, so turkey, prime rib, chicken, and the fixings like macaroni and cheese and stuffing. But because we're also stationed in the Republic of Korea, we also have some Korean traditional foods, kimchi, radish kimchi, those types of things. And so it's really interesting to eat both the U.S. traditional Thanksgiving food and then the food of our host country.
I liked the turkey today. I definitely miss my grandma's, but this is still pretty good turkey, so I'll take it.
Roughly 28,500 U.S. troops are stationed in South Korea as a legacy of the 1950 to 1953 Korean War. In the remotest reaches of Alaska, there's no relying on DoorDash to have Thanksgiving dinner or any dinner delivered. But Esther Keim, the founder of Alaska Turkey Bomb, is on a mission to help those families in need to have turkeys brought in by air.
I grew up in the bush in the rural Alaska, so there's no roads. The only way that you can get there is by airplane, by snowmobile or boat if you're on the river system. And so during freeze up, during Thanksgiving time, everyone is stuck. And so we had a family friend that would airdrop turkeys to my family and other families in the area for Thanksgiving. But 3 years ago, I was out there and we went to visit our newest and closest neighbors that had moved out there, and they had just moved out the season before, and they were telling me that a squirrel for dinner did not split very far between 3 people. And at that moment, I thought, I'm going to airdrop them a turkey because I had just finished rebuilding my first airplane with my dad. And it would have been super easy and simple just to surprise them and drop them a turkey. And then once I started preparing for that, I thought, I'm not going to leave anyone out in the area. I want to do that to everyone that lives out there and that's out there for, during freeze up and through the winter. So that's kind of how I got started. That was 2022. And every year I've dropped between 30 and 40 turkeys.
She actually contacts families on social media beforehand to let them know they will be coming with the turkeys. A turkey was once missing for 5 days before it was found, but the only casualty so far has been a lost ham. The turkeys are paid for with donations, usually by people reaching out to her through Facebook. But her ultimate goal is to set up a nonprofit organization for Alaska Turkey Bomb so they can reach more people in need. Coming up, the holiday season is here. For many, it's a time to reflect on what we are most grateful for. We hit the streets of D.C. to find out what people are most thankful for this Thanksgiving. And a Thanksgiving surprise for a 20-year-old Marine recruit recovering from a serious spinal injury. That and more when we return here on NTD News. Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. This Thanksgiving, there's no better time than now to express gratitude and count your blessings. NTD's Sam Wong was out in D.C. to find out what people are most grateful for.
What are you doing for Thanksgiving?
Just a dinner at my family's house.
We're seeing all the sights around the U.S.
Sightseeing. Washington, D.C., yeah, seeing all the sights that they've got to offer here.
What's your favorite part of the trip so far?
Being with my wife.
Coming to D.C. for the beginning of the week and then going back and seeing the rest of our family in Atlanta for the rest of the week. We came to D.C. to see who?
Grandy and Lovey, that's our grandparent.
We're here to see my daughter and her husband and the grandbaby, and my daughters are coming down from Brooklyn.
Well, my Thanksgiving tradition, I usually try to travel to see friends or family during this time. I live in Chicago.
I'll be with family and enjoying, and then just a few other things, seeing some more of the city.
He's in 5th grade, and so 5th grade they study U.S. history, and so we wanted to bring him here so that he could really absorb the history of our great nation.
And what are you most thankful for this Thanksgiving?
My family. Seeing my family, spending time with my family, and just having a week off from work.
Freedom.
That's a good question. I'm most thankful for my family, that everyone's in good health. I'm able to travel to see them this year.
All in all, it's been a good year for all of my friends and all of my family. So I'm grateful for that.
I'm just thankful for my family and good health.
The same. Family, great health, just great to be living.
Grateful for family and our granddaughter.
My breast cancer didn't return. I'll take it.
Thank you for our health and hopefully better health.
Being alive. You know, I've gone through some things and I'm healthy, and thank God for that.
I'm thankful to God 365 days a year, 24/7.
Thanksgiving had come a day earlier for the homeless in downtown Los Angeles' Skid Row. Yesterday, the Los Angeles Mission dished out turkey and all the trimmings with the help of a few well-known faces. Eric Grant, the executive chef at the Los Angeles Mission, says this event is personal.
At one point in time, I actually found myself homeless, and so for me, it's very personal. I really want to give back to the community, give back to the society, because really this can happen to any of us. So the expectancy is between 1,500 and 4,000. So I've prepared 180 gallons of gravy, 3,600 pounds of turkey, 1,000 pounds of macaroni, 1,000 pounds of collard greens, and 1,000 pounds of stuffing.
Well-known faces, including Hollywood producer Jeffrey Katzenberg, actors Joe Manganiello, Alexander James Rodriguez, and TV host Nick Cannon, were either serving the homeless or dishing out the food to give to the servers.
It fills your heart, both with happiness of we're going to make people's lives a teeny bit brighter today, but also reminds you of how many people are in need. You can see it here on the streets. Heartbreaking.
What a lot of people don't say is that when you are giving, you get so much more back. It's almost a selfish act to try to help people, because it really is a wonderful thing to be around those that care about human beings, and in this time right now, it's really wonderful to be around like-minded individuals that really want to help.
Giving food to someone and seeing a smile on their face is always something that makes you feel like you're making a difference. Even if it's small, it's still a difference. And you know, together as a community, everyone over here is actually making a massive difference in our community in Los Angeles.
A prestigious art fair has returned to Paris for an exhibition. Art dealers are showcasing rare artwork and masterpieces that even museums can't acquire. The art fair also highlights the exceptional skills of craftsmen, painters, and sculptors from past centuries. NTD's correspondent David Vives reports from Paris.
The Fine Arts La Biennale has returned to the Grand Palais in Paris, welcoming 100 exhibitors from 9 countries. Many museums would dream of owning some of the masterpieces exhibited here, which have never been shown to the public except on rare occasions like this. Amidst the visitors, a few art dealers may make some purchases, while the majority will simply admire them. Gallery owner Guillaume Léage travels across the world to sell the rare pieces he finds. He says it can take months to research and investigate an object he considers purchasing.
And it's very rare to have such an important 18th century centerpiece like this. You have the dragons on the 2 parts, the 8 arms lights that could be removed, actually, if you would use it during the day or during the evening. What we look for at the gallery is, like always, the highest quality of the 18th century. Sometimes we have an equivalent museum or very rare provenance.
Pascal Izan is one of the few experts on bronze art pieces. His booth showcases astonishing pendulums and clockworks from Europe. One of the pieces is from the Napoleonic era, inspired by the emperor's Egyptian campaign.
We're looking at a pair of canopic vases from the First Empire period. They were made in gilded bronze, patinated bronze, and grotty marble. And they're not just veneered marble blocks, decorated with scarabs, monkeys, and figures reminiscent of Egypt.
Like Izan and Léage, many of the art dealers specialize in rare niches and have exceptional expertise. Van Coenberg focuses on white marble sculptures, the rare marble of Carrara used by Renaissance sculptors such as Michelangelo for its beauty, softness, and light-reflecting properties.
Look at the drapery, and you can see the leg of the lady just coming through the drapery, which is just amazing. You just see the knee over here, and here it's very nice because the marble is in absolutely perfect condition, and it symbolizes the knights. So we see here the allegory of the knight represented by a very young woman, and with the star just over here in her hair, and also the fact that she's putting the veil over the day, which prepares for the night to start.
The art fair will return to the Grand Palais in Paris in November 2025. David Vives, NTD News, Paris.
A Thanksgiving surprise brightened the day for a 20-year-old Marine recruit recovering from a serious spinal injury. Detroit Lions star Aiden Hutchinson, on crutches due to his own injury, showed up unannounced at Jacob Reinhardt's Michigan home. NTD's Dana Monahan has more on the heartwarming story.
Jacob Reinhardt sustained a spinal cord injury from the C2 to the C7 vertebrae in boot camp. He was paralyzed from the neck down in the beginning. Reinhardt now has the use of his arms and legs, but can't feel them. Detroit Lions star pass rusher Aiden Hutchinson heard what happened and wanted to brighten up the young man's day.
I'm sitting here and Aiden Hutchinson walks in the door and I about dropped dead.
Hutchinson surprised the family with tickets to the Lions' Thanksgiving Day game against the Bears.
You guys are going to the Thanksgiving game. We got a few tickets for you guys.
Bro, what?
So that it's going to be an absolute blast.
Hutchinson said it was amazing to be able to surprise the family with the tickets.
This incredible opportunity for me to be able to surprise this wonderful family with tickets to the Thanksgiving game, and it's all because of their son that persevered through an incredible amount of adversity, and is also while he was in the military.
Reinhardt says recovery has been a journey.
A couple months after, still in the hospital, still trying to just get better. A couple months later, started to see improvements, and now I'm finally starting to really get there.
It all started when Reinhardt's stepmom, Audrey Cox, wrote a letter to the team describing her stepson's journey to recovery. Not only did the Lions supply him with tickets to the annual holiday game, Reinhardt also received a number 14 Amon-Ra St. Brown jersey and was delighted to jump on a FaceTime call with the star wide receiver.
Hey, yo! What up, dog?
St. Brown promised to do an end zone celebration in Reinhardt's honor if he scores a touchdown against the Bears. The surprise Hutchinson visit, which Audrey Cox was in on, was orchestrated by Verizon. Hutchinson won't be playing on Thursday due to a broken leg he suffered in a game last month, hence the crutches. Reinhardt said meeting Hutchinson was the coolest thing that's happened to him. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Coming up, the origin story of Thanksgiving. We take a moment to reflect on the story of the Pilgrims and their worldwide legacy. And you might be able to see a special sight in the sky tonight. Stay tuned for details and much more after this short break. Welcome back. If you're just joining us now, here are some of today's top headlines. The 98th annual Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade drew millions of spectators in New York City. People braved rain and chilly temperatures in Manhattan this morning to watch the floats and enjoy musical performances. President-elect Trump and Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum had a conversation about border security issues. Trump said Sheinbaum agreed to stop illegal immigration through Mexico and into the United States. Sheinbaum later wrote on X that Mexico's stance is not to close borders and would address migration while respecting human rights. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg dined with Trump at Mar-A-Lago. Trump's team said Zuckerberg showed his support for Trump's economic plan and expressed his wish to participate. 3 American citizens imprisoned for years in China arrived back in the United States. They're with their families in time for Thanksgiving, thanks to a prisoner swap negotiated by the Biden administration. On Thanksgiving, we take a moment to reflect on the story of Plymouth and the Pilgrims. They are part of the backbone of the American tradition. But how exactly does this impact the country America has become today? And could it have an impact beyond our borders? Here to discuss is Marcus Shakis. He's the editor-in-chief of the Epoch Times Brazil and Latin America correspondent for the U.S. Epoch Times. Marcus, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. And as somebody covering international relations, you've talked before about how the American Pilgrims have shaped not only American culture, but culture and governance worldwide. Talk us through it.
Okay, so when we talk about the Pilgrims, really we're talking about the second major expedition that really was able to build a colony in America. That was way over north, not in Jamestown, Virginia. So, and it's really interesting because their story is so built with providence. And it's so built with wonderful concepts where they would draw, a moral law for a moral people, which is a concept that has profoundly influenced American history. So just to give you an example, there's this map that was given to Congress in 1888, and this was right after the American Civil War, of course. And there you see they have 2 writings, one in the south, which says God's curse slavery, and one in the north, which says God's blessing liberty. And when we talk about liberty, what we're really referring to here is the concept of natural rights. Natural rights, which we can see even in the American Constitution and in the Bill of Rights. It's the idea that God has given you certain rights. Nobody is able to take them away from you, not even a government. And part of the whole American experience and the whole American experiment is built upon that idea. That's why we see the slogans in God we trust and one nation under God so often, in all the documentation of America. So I think that's the core of it, the idea of natural rights, which evolved from the Pilgrims early on in America.
And Marcus, you of course are based in Brazil. Talk to us about how these concepts spread to Latin America and also beyond.
So that's a really interesting topic, Tiffany, because, when we talk about the American experiment, and I think that's also why Thanksgiving, despite not being celebrated worldwide, in a number of countries, is still a very interesting moment for us to reflect, because the ideas that shaped America shaped not only the country that is the United States of America, but did a wonderful amount of good for the world. They opposed authoritarianism, even, as far back as the founding of America, and, even to this day, those ideas have become the beacon of freedom, because just think about how powerful this is. The idea of natural rights, rights that are not given to you by a government, not the law of man, but the law of God. Now, there are 2 major ways in which this has impacted the world. Just the power of this idea, was spreading as early as the American Revolution, which drastically reshaped the intellectual landscape worldwide. And the second way in which this was very major is that after World War II, and even as the Cold War developed, etc., America really was becoming the model of a non-communist society that could thrive in the 20th century. So those are the two major ways in which it has impacted the world. A modern model of a society that can thrive based on these ideas, and then also how it shaped the intellectual landscape, even with the writings of the founding fathers.
And looking now to our modern day, what would you say are some examples of this cultural heritage that we can observe in today's world?
Well, I think that we had both presidential candidates, just a few months ago, running campaigns with the words freedom. They were uttered in different meanings. People can have different interpretations of them. But the fact that the American people cherish their freedom so much is in itself a legacy of that. So when we go all the way back to the history of the Pilgrims, we'll see that they were people looking for a place where they could have freedom of belief, freedom of speech. They were looking for religious freedom and a place for free enterprise. So to this day, we have people, like refugees from totalitarian regimes that are able to come to America, just like the Pilgrims did, even when it still wasn't the United States of America. I think part of this heritage is seen in the way America is able to welcome people from all over the world, and so gracefully give them opportunities where there were none. And many of them, if you get the Indian community, even, the Chinese Falun Gong community, which of course is brutally persecuted in China, these people have been able to thrive in America and help America develop itself, and America has also extended to them the blessing of freedom. So I think that's a very major topic there.
Now, of course, the Epoch Times covers the history and spread of Marxism and communism extensively. In your own reporting, you've discussed how these ideas that came from the Pilgrims played a major role in the U.S. winning the Cold War over the communist Soviets. Tell us more about that.
Great. Yeah. So that's a very interesting point for us to expand on. And I also think it's what I meant when I said that this is a moment for a lot of people abroad to cherish America, like I do. And what I mean by that is that if you go all the way back to the beginning of the Cold War, there was a diplomat which wrote an anonymous article in the Foreign Affairs magazine. Now, this article, back then known as the X article, was written by George Kennan. And this diplomat, which had been to Moscow, had been, deployed in Russia. So he was talking about how can America beat the Soviet communists in this Cold War. And really the framework he developed was one that we should avoid direct confrontation, maybe, have specific points of pressure with the military, but that's not the point. The point is that communist theory has it that America is just like a rotten apple. It's about to rot, it's about to decay, and with the slightest push, this giant is going to fall. But actually, George Kennan made an argument that that's not what it is. On the contrary, it is the Soviet Union and the communist movement, which is a rotten apple. Their ideas are terrible. They have no idea to keep the population that repressed for that long. Their economy can't grow at a fast enough rate with the policies that they have, and they can't renew their leadership because they're so authoritarian. So it became really a defining moment of world history where George Kennan argued that America has to be America as much as it can. And that, of course, also comes from the tradition we discussed with the Pilgrims. And the communists can just be the communists as much as they want. And we'll see who stands out longer, in this ideological war of attrition. So really, it goes back to what we were discussing of the idea of natural rights versus the law of man, rights that the government gives to you. And really, America stood out, and it's standing out again as it again is facing authoritarian threats.
Marcus Shakis, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
The Northern Lights could bring some added excitement tonight and Black Friday. An incoming solar storm is expected to make faintly colorful auroras visible tonight and tomorrow. That's according to NOAA. They'll most likely be seen in parts of the northern U.S. from New York to Idaho. Experts say you can expect to see the lights tonight between 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. with more accurate forecasts to come near the time. Coming up on Thanksgiving in the NFL, Detroit put their league best 10-1 record on the line against Chicago. Dave Martin joins us to discuss when we return on NTD Evening News. Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer now for your sports news. We're joined by NTD's Dave Martin. Dave, a lot going on, but let's start in the NFL as the Detroit Lions held on late to beat the Chicago Bears this afternoon. What did you think of the ending? It seemed kind of odd, didn't it?
Very odd. I mean, the Bears are definitely going to be asked about their clock management there at the end of the game. I mean, they had a very poor first half, but by the end of the game, they came back. They were down just 3 points in the final minute. They drove to Detroit's 25-yard line with like 45 seconds left. Unfortunately, they got a 10-yard penalty that moved them back to the 35. Now, that's still close enough for a game-tying field goal. But on second down, Caleb Williams was sacked for a 6-yard loss. That moved them out of field goal range, but there was still like 26 seconds left of the time. But they were so slow in getting that next play started. They could have used a timeout to stop the clock. I guess they were trying to keep that for their field goal. But anyway, they snapped the ball with like 6 seconds left. Caleb Williams was an incomplete pass just as time expires, so the game was over right there. It really seemed like they could have gotten another playoff there. And in any case, Detroit won. They are now 11-1. That is the best record in the NFL.
Well, that wasn't the only game on today, as Dallas is currently playing the New York Giants, and then tonight we have Miami at Green Bay.
Yeah, right now Dallas is up 13-10 over the Giants. Now Dallas entered this game just 4-7 record. Really little hope of making the playoffs with star quarterback Dak Prescott out. Probably the only more disappointing team in the NFL right now is probably the New York Jets. But at least Dallas can blame their woes on some injuries. I don't know what the Jets can blame theirs on. Anyway, the Giants recently benched and released their starting quarterback Daniel Jones. I don't think anyone really had high expectations for them this year, and they're living up to it. They're only 2-9. Tonight's game is a little better, though. We got Green Bay against Miami. This should be a good one. Both teams are really hot. Green Bay's won 6 of their last 7 games. Miami's got Tua Tagovailoa. They've won 3 in a row now. In any case, whoever's the MVP of today's games gets the infamous Turducken Drumstick Award.
How did that whole award start? It's not an official NFL award, is it?
Yeah, that was all John Madden, the former coach turned NFL announcer. I mean, he was an award-winning announcer too, 16-time Emmy winner. Anyway, he was announcing one of these Thanksgiving games. I think it was back in 1989. He decided to award his own MVP of the game with a turkey drumstick. So they brought out this whole turkey out in the field, and the player would dig in. It was actually kind of funny. Now, by 1996, someone actually created these 6-legged turkeys so we could hand out multiple MVPs with multiple drumsticks. By then it was his infamous turducken, which he would use the telestrator to explain, which was always very comical. I mean, he loved using the telestrator, but to use it for a turkey was really funny. Anyway, Madden passed away a couple years ago, but his NFL Thanksgiving traditions are still really carried out today. In fact, tonight, NBC is going to honor him by having a little segment before the game where they bring out the old Madden bus out of retirement. Now, the Madden bus is what he used to drive to the games. He really hated to fly. But anyway, it became kind of almost part of the broadcast. They would sometimes do the pregame show in there. So fans from 20 years ago definitely remember the Madden bus.
Shifting gears away from football for a second to women's college volleyball. Now a lawsuit seeking to prevent an alleged transgender player for San Jose State from playing in this week's conference tournament has been rejected. What is the latest there?
Yeah, the latest is that Boise State, they were one of those 5 teams that previously forfeited games against San Jose State earlier this season, announced they're forfeiting again in the conference tournament last night, so San Jose State will now advance to the finals. Now, Boise State's athletic department released a statement that said, quote, "Our team overcame forfeitures to earn a spot in the tournament field and fought for the win over Utah State in the first round on Wednesday. They should not have to forego this opportunity while waiting for a more thoughtful and better system that serves all athletes," end quote. Now, Boise State actually forfeited 2 regular season games against San Jose State earlier this year, so this is our 3rd time forfeiting against them. This is big because this is a conference tournament. Whoever wins this goes to the NCAA tournament and plays for the national championship. Now, instead, that team might be San Jose State. They'll automatically advance to the finals where they play the winner of San Diego State against Colorado State. Now, this whole lawsuit was brought about by 10 plaintiffs across 4 different schools. In fact, one of those plaintiffs is actually a teammate of this alleged transgender player for San Jose State, as well as a former assistant coach there. So it's been a very divisive issue.
Looking at college football news, this week is known as Rivalry Week with a few games on Friday and the rest on Saturday. What are some of the best matchups here?
Well, we've got like Georgia versus Georgia Tech. Now, Georgia Tech is actually 7-4. They already upset Miami, so this actually could be very good because, I mean, Georgia's a powerhouse. You also have the Egg Bowl tomorrow. That's Mississippi State, Ole Miss. I'm afraid Ole Miss is out of playoff contention with 3 losses now, but they're still a tough team. Then we have Saturday. Saturday's the big one. You got Michigan, Ohio State. This is probably the biggest. This year, maybe not as good though, because Michigan's really not having a good season. They're like 6-5. Maybe it'll make it a good game. I'm not really counting on it though. But you also have the Iron Bowl, Auburn, Alabama. Auburn's not really having a great season, but in years past that, it hasn't always mattered, so that should be another good one. Now, a couple others involving ranked teams. You've got Clemson versus South Carolina, Texas A&M, and finally, it's not Armageddon, but Farmageddon, as Iowa State plays Kansas State, a couple of agricultural schools playing on the gridiron now.
On to many Americans, Thanksgiving and NFL football have become intertwined today. The league has broadcast Thanksgiving games dating back to the 1930s. What are some of the most memorable games?
You know, I can think of a couple. You know, one is very, very memorable. 1993, Dolphins versus Cowboys. Cowboys were in the midst of winning 2 straight Super Bowls, but Miami has a chance to win at the end of the field goal. Dallas blocks it. This is in the snow, by the way. All they had to do at this point is let the ball come to rest, automatically go back to them, and they win the game. But Cowboys defensively tackle Leon Lett. He was somehow, I guess he was unaware of the rule, runs to the ball, slips in the snow, and he touches it, fumbles it away. Miami recovers it with a few seconds left, tries another field goal, nails it, and wins the game. Now, if Lett had picked it up and secured it, that would have been fine too, but just touching the ball made it a live ball. It wasn't really necessary. Now, Lett, just a few months earlier, had that gaffe in the Super Bowl too, unfortunately for him, because it kind of overshadowed. He was actually a really good player in his career. Also, another great game, 1998. That was when Randy Moss really put his name on the map. I mean, he was a rookie receiver. He was like 6'4". Against the Cowboys, he had 3 50-yard plus touchdown catches in a Thanksgiving game. They ended up winning 46-36. There's a lot, actually. I've got a lot of Thanksgiving memories. Well, hopefully, we see some more tonight with that Miami-Green Bay game.
Well, Davis, always thanks for joining us, and happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, thank you.
Dinner table conversations this holiday season may serve up some food for thought. How can you approach tricky conversations this Thanksgiving? We've got some tips from a psychologist.
Licensed clinical psychologist Yasmin Saad offers tips to navigate uncomfortable conversations this Thanksgiving.
We're seeing a lot of people come to us talking about pre-Thanksgiving angst, absolutely, because unfortunately this election has been very divisive in families, especially in between generations.
She recommends setting dinner table ground rules.
The first strategy is I'm going to tell my family, I am not going to talk about politics. I respect your view, I respect mine. I want this Thanksgiving to be fill the blank, about us connecting, about us being thankful for having each other.
Another tip to avoid derailing the spirit of the holiday is by politely redirecting the conversation.
So one of the ways to divert is that politely say, you know, this is an interesting topic, but I want to remain in the spirit of Thanksgiving. So how did you cook this meal? Or how is this food for you? So diverting it in a polite way, respectful way.
Saad recommends preparing what you're going to say and to state your objectives clearly.
We're not going to talk about politics at the table because we know that we don't agree, and I love you very much, but I don't want to bring this to the surface.
Another tip to avoid the conflict, anger, frustration, and tension is to show curiosity.
You know, I appreciate your point of view. You know, mine, you know, is a bit different, but I don't think this is the place for it.
And then the last tip is, what do you want out of this Thanksgiving?
Some people really want, you know, enjoying the meal. So you want to keep that as your agenda throughout and remain attached to it and bring everybody back to it.
With a little pre-dinner planning, you can prevent the conversation from leaving you with a bitter taste.
And that's all for today's news. For round-the-clock coverage, visit us at ntd.com or download our NTD app. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Happy Thanksgiving and good night.